There are cities that are born to teach us a lesson. With Las Vegas, the lesson is, if you live only to spend money and chase extravagant dreams, sooner or later, the day will come when you have to pay the price. And that day for Sin City has come. The streets that once shone brightly with lights like an endless dream are now mottled with dark patches, where casinos are empty and hotels hang discount signs but still have vacant rooms. The number of tourists has dropped to its lowest level in decades. The buses from California, once the lifeblood of Vegas, are now few and far between. Even local residents, who once served the dreams of others, are having to leave the city because they can no longer afford the rent. Vegas was built to spend money, to dream, to live large with a small reality. But as the whole of America began to sober up, that city still hadn't realized the game was over. The price to pay is not just billions of dollars in lost revenue, but the collapse of an icon, where the American dream first showed its cracks. In today's video, let's trace the path of the downfall to understand why Las Vegas, the city that once made the world believe happiness could be bought with money, is becoming painful proof of the opposite. A city that seemed to never sleep is now dreaming its own nightmare. Perhaps you don't know this, that Las Vegas becoming as deserted as it is now wasn't entirely an accident, but rather seems to be part of the city's own deliberate strategy. If you're wondering, could that possibly be true? Let's take a look back at the past to see what Las Vegas did, step by step, to unintentionally or intentionally push away the very tourists who once loved it. It all started right after the COVID-19 pandemic. As America emerged from months of lockdown, people poured into the streets as if reborn. They eat, shop, and travel, all as a compensatory reaction to the time spent confined within four walls. That phenomenon is called revenge spending, spending to prove that you are still free, still alive. Vegas, the mecca of excess, quickly became the epicenter of that wave. Resort fees, which were only about $25 per night, were uniformly raised to $40 by hotels with the promise of offsetting costs and enhancing the post-pandemic experience. But at that time, no one cared. After 3 years of pent-up desire, tourists just want to have fun, spend money, and feel alive again. They were willing to pay any price to regain a moment of freedom. And Vegas understood that, perhaps better than anyone else. From that realization, a new mindset was formed. If guests are willing to pay $40, why not $55? If they're happy to spend money to buy back the feeling of being alive, why not turn every experience, from parking and checking in to ordering a drink, into a service with its own price? And so, layer upon layer of fees began to pile up. From resort fees to cleaning fees, then parking fees, energy fees, amenity fees. Each charge may sound small, but added together, they turn a vacation meant for relaxation into a financial burden. The price to pay for Vegas is no longer on the blackjack table or slot machines. It's right in the bill. The irony is, prices are going up, but the experience is going down. The buffets that were once the pride of the city are now 3 times more expensive, but the flavor has become bland. The hotels, once considered symbols of American hospitality, are now cold, soulless, and lack the welcoming atmosphere that once defined Vegas's identity. People come and no longer feel joy and leave feeling exploited. The reception smiles are no longer friendly. They seem more like part of a sales tactic. Tourists no longer feel valued, but rather like walking ATMs, having every penny extracted under the guise of a premium experience. From a city that once made the whole world yearn to visit, Las Vegas is gradually turning greed into a development policy. But the rift didn't just come from within the country. For international tourists, who make up only about 20% of visitors, but contribute over 40% of revenue from hotels, casinos, shopping, and entertainment shows, the journey to Vegas is now more challenging than ever. Those who previously easily obtained B1, B2 visas for tourism or business are now required to attend an in-person interview. And the wait time was so long that it was enough for your newborn grandchild to start babbling grandparents. In many countries, the process of applying for a US visa currently takes 6 to 18 months. And no one wants to wait a whole year just to be allowed into the US for a 5-day vacation. Step by step, Vegas is closing its doors to the world. Meanwhile, the rest of America is starting to play Vegas's way. And that's the killer blow. Before the 1990s, if you wanted to gamble legally in the US, there was almost no choice other than Las Vegas. But by 2025, over 30 states had legalized commercial or tribal casinos. The exclusive dream that Vegas held for half a century has been erased. Worse, even the golden source of customers, the people of California, no longer have to drive hundreds of miles through the desert to seek their fortune. In just a few years, the state has seen a surge of high-end tribal casinos like Pechanga, Yamava, Morongo, boasting luxurious spaces, all-inclusive services, and slot machines identical to those in Vegas. For many people, the reason to come to Nevada is no longer there. Recognizing that danger, Vegas executives began to change their strategy. The city is shifting its focus to performances, sports, cuisine, and concerts by global stars. Performances by Adele, U2, or Bruno Mars have become marketing treasures of the post-casino era. But while the upper class rejoiced, the rest of society, the middle-class guests who were once the lifeblood of Vegas, were gradually pushed out. Show tickets have doubled in price, hotel rooms are reaching luxury levels, and even casual meals are no longer casual. Tourists no longer feel welcome, but rather feel they are being priced. Vegas is no longer a place where people find luck, but rather a place where luck has been priced in dollars. Every step now comes with a surcharge, and every celebration seems to be accompanied by an invisible reminder: you get what you pay for. The cruelest thing is that this city seems to know this well and accepts it as a survival strategy. In consumer psychology, when belief value is replaced by invoice value, the emotional connection between customers and the brand will dissolve. And in Vegas, that relationship really fell apart. Perhaps Vegas hasn't lost its soul. It's just chosen to sell it at the listed price, plus any additional fees. A city that once promised anything is possible now represents only one thing: everything has a price. And when trust crumbles, the domino effect begins to spread. The next story will show that this collapse didn't begin in the glamorous center of the Strip, but in a place few would expect, right at the gateway to the city, where Vegas once began its dream. People might think the collapse of Las Vegas is simply a few declining numbers on a tourism report, a few percentage points drop in visitors, a few downward charts. But the truth is, those numbers are just the tip of the iceberg of a silent earthquake. Like a building rotting from within, Vegas is collapsing because of the very cracks in its soul. And the place where that aftershock is felt most acutely is none other than Caesars Entertainment, the corporation once considered the heart of the Strip, where dreams are gambled and the lights never go out. However, in the second quarter of 2025, Caesars' revenue in Las Vegas decreased by 3.7% compared to the same period last year. That number might sound small at first, but for a vast empire, it meant tens of millions of dollars disappearing in just 3 months. Occupancy rates fell by more than 2 percentage points, equivalent to nearly 27,000 empty room nights. And for Vegas, which once boasted it never sleeps, that silence is truly terrifying. The strongest blow came on September 22, 2025, when Caesars Entertainment was officially removed from the S&P 500 index, a list of the 500 largest companies in the United States. In the corporate world, it's not just a name being crossed out, but a sentence. You have become smaller, weaker, and are no longer trusted. Being excluded forced a wave of passive investment funds to dump Caesar shares, sending the company's value into a freefall, down over 30% this year alone, and more than 50% over the past 2 years. Meanwhile, the corporation is still struggling under a massive debt of $12.3 billion, having to gradually sell off assets that were once its pride, such as the World Series of Poker and the Link Promenade, just to survive. But that's just putting out the fire at the top, while the house is still burning from the inside. Some people gloated, saying it was a fitting price for greed. They say Caesars is getting what it sowed, after deliberately eliminating the middle class to create an exclusive playground for the super rich. But the truth is much harsher. The real victims are not the bosses or investors, but the ordinary workers. Those who serve in hotels, stand behind bars, mop floors, deal cards. The people who have kept this city alive for decades. When revenue plummeted, they were the first to have their shifts cut, their salaries reduced, or to lose their jobs. With every light that goes out on the Strip, a livelihood is buried in darkness. And then, like every domino effect, the collapse from the center quickly spread to the periphery. Prim Valley, the gateway between Nevada and California, where millions of visitors once stopped to buy lottery tickets, fill up their gas tanks, or simply breathe in the feeling of being almost in Vegas, has now become a desolate wasteland. Of the 3 large complexes that once shone brightly, only 2 remain open on a limited basis. Buffalo Bill's Hotel, an icon of the frontier, was forced to close for up to 70% of the year in 2024, according to the Las Vegas Review-Journal. The once bustling outlet store is now more than 40% vacant. At each stop, at every gas station, at every small roadside restaurant, they all met the same fate. As the number of drivers from California decreased, the border became desolate. When the border falls silent, the Strip loses its lifeblood. And as the Strip weakened, the whole city began to falter. Today, if you drive through Prim Valley, the image you see is no different from a preview of Vegas's future. The hotel buildings with closed windows, dusty parking lots, and neon signs flickering weakly amidst the barren desert. A town that was once a symbol of hope is now just a reminder that the American dream, no matter how bright, has an expiration date. Is this the true cost of prosperity? That the brighter the lights, the deeper the shadows? Is every light that goes out on the Strip a buried livelihood? And if so, who is to blame? The tourists who turn their backs, or the very people who turn dreams into commodities? There's nothing more terrifying than a city like Las Vegas becoming quiet. Vegas was once a place where even the air had its own rhythm, where the clatter of coins, the cheers at the blackjack tables, and the music spilling from every window combined into a symphony of life. But in the summer of 2025, that city suddenly fell silent. A silence so strange that it itself was no longer familiar with its own sounds. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, WTTC, international arrivals in Las Vegas during the summer of 2025 are projected to decrease by 11% compared to 2023, while domestic spending is expected to decline by an additional 8%. These seemingly small numbers hit the very lifeblood of Vegas, an economy that thrives on emotion and noise. Cirque du Soleil performances had to be cancelled due to lack of customers, and small lounges that were once bustling now close earlier than casual restaurants. Many bars are so quiet that you can hear the hum of the air conditioning mixed with the clinking of glasses, a sound that didn't exist in Vegas for decades. This quietness is not peaceful. It's the hollow echo of a place that once believed noise equated to existence. Longtime residents here say Vegas has never heard itself so clearly, and the sound it's hearing is the faint heartbeat of its own soul. For many, the decline in visitors is only a temporary consequence. But for those who understand Vegas, it's a sign of quiet collapse. When a city has been too lively for half a century, it doesn't know how to react to stillness. And when there was no sound to fill the void, people began to hear things they had previously tried to avoid. The wind whistling through the homeless encampments, the footsteps of the staff walking down empty corridors, the sound of casino doors closing earlier than usual. On a positive note, some travel experts believe Vegas's quieting down is an opportunity for the city to reflect on itself, to become less reliant on gambling and shift toward a more sustainable model based on culture, sports, and green tourism. Some major hotels like Hilton and MGM Resorts have started implementing the carbon-neutral events model and investing in clean energy. Those changes are small, but at least they're the beginning of a Vegas that listens, not just to the sound of air conditioning, but also to the sighs of its own people. Because sometimes a city needs silence to understand why it was once worth living in. And perhaps, after so many years of selling laughter to the world, Vegas is having to relearn how to talk to its own heart. Those who once cleaned other people's dream rooms now have nowhere to sleep. That phrase echoed like a direct cut into the heart of Las Vegas, a city built by the hands of hundreds of thousands of ordinary workers, the people who quietly worked behind the lights. But while Vegas still shines brightly in the night sky, the very people who lit that light are slowly being swallowed by darkness. According to the Las Vegas Review-Journal 2025, housing rents in Clark County have increased by over 37% since 2020, while the average wage for hotel employees has only increased by about 9%. This disparity is no longer an income gap, it's a chasm that's swallowing an entire class. A small apartment that once cost month now costs nearly $400, while many workers only earn $3,000 and $3,200 a month. With rent taking up over half their income, they had no choice but to leave the city they had helped build. In early 2025, over 6,000 members of the Culinary Union, the union representing hotel service and housekeeping staff, went on strike. Not for a raise, but simply to demand a living wage. Many people say they can no longer serve someone else's dream when they themselves don't even have a roof over their heads. Hundreds of employees are now forced to temporarily live in their cars in the Boulder Highway area, or set up temporary tents in Walmart parking lots, where the no overnight parking signs are temporarily overlooked by authorities because they have nowhere else to go. The irony is, Vegas was once hailed as a place where anyone can start over. But now, even those who once believed that are having to leave. Construction, food service, and hotel companies are struggling with a severe labor shortage because no one can afford to live in the city where they work. And as the operating hands gradually disappeared, Vegas began to slow down, like a shiny machine missing its operating soul. In that context, some large corporations are starting to have to change. Marriott International has launched the Employee Housing Assistance Program, which supports employees in renting housing near their workplace and provides short-term living stipends. This isn't a perfect solution, but at least it's a sign that someone is starting to listen. Vegas can recover, but only if its operators aren't left behind. Because no light shines forever, if the lamp goalkeeper no longer has the strength to stand up. Who really keeps Vegas alive? The winners at the casinos, or the people who quietly serve them every day? If even the dreamers themselves are pushed out, what dreams are left for us to believe in? When Las Vegas falls, it takes the whole of America down with it. That saying was once considered an exaggeration. But by 2025, it had become a stark reality, as the city once synonymous with hope, luck, and opulence now grappled with cracks deeper than economic ones. Cracks that ran through the heart of society, spreading from the glittering strip to the aging neighborhoods of North Vegas. According to data from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, LVMPD 2024, thefts, disguised prostitution, and minor conflicts around the central area have increased significantly compared to the pre-pandemic period. As the tourism industry slowed down, service and sales jobs declined, forcing many people to find other ways to survive. Petty criminals began to lurk around large hotels, parking lots and shopping areas along Las Vegas Boulevard, not out of greed, but out of poverty. Vegas was once known as the city of opportunity, but now opportunity is only for those who can afford to buy a ticket to the game. At the same time, the social welfare system began to become overloaded. According to the US Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD 2025, the number of homeless people in Clark County increased by 12% in just 1 year. Temporary shelters originally designed to accommodate 1,000 people are now housing over 2,300 people each night, a 130% overload. Those without shelter had to set up tents along I-15, right where tourists still drive through to enter the city. There are camps that stretch for miles, located right beneath the bright billboards of the Sphere, the most modern symbol Vegas has ever boasted. That painting evokes a cruel paradox. While billions of dollars continue to be invested in lavish entertainment projects, right at their feet are thousands of people struggling to survive each night. A sight once described by reporters as a two-tiered mirror of Vegas. The upper level dazzling, the lower level decaying. The image of the police car slowing down and changing direction, avoiding the stretch of road where dozens of makeshift tents stood, became a symbol of avoidance, not just by the authorities, but by an entire society accustomed to looking the other way. But amidst the losses, there are still small efforts to hold on to a bit of humanity. Wynn Resorts, one of the city's largest hotel corporations, announced the second shift program for 2025, which provides vocational training and temporary jobs for those who have lost their jobs in the tourism industry. The program doesn't solve all problems, but at least it shows that someone is still trying to fix things from within. Vegas is a mirror reflecting America, a country with an abundance of light, but lacking warmth. A place where success is measured by the brightness of the signs, while kindness is quietly extinguished bit by bit. Can a nation be strong when its heart is rotting? Or is Las Vegas just a mirror reflecting the part of America we don't dare to look at directly? When a city like Las Vegas, once a symbol of dreams, luck, and the belief that anything is possible, now becomes a symbol of inequality and exhaustion, we must ask ourselves, do the brightest lights always hide the deepest darkness? Vegas isn't just experiencing an economic crisis, but a crisis of meaning, where people who once believed they were building paradise can no longer afford to live in the very place they created. If the city of sin, which once never slept to dream, is now so silent, what will the rest of America be like when this light goes out? Is this a warning for an entire nation that is losing its soul while still trying to shine? If you've ever been to Vegas, or ever believed in the dreams this place once sold to the world, share your thoughts. What do you think led this city to the brink of collapse like it is today? And is there any miracle big enough to save it? Leave your thoughts in the comments section, like if you empathize, share, if you believe Vegas's story is something the whole country needs to reflect on, and subscribe to continue exploring other hidden corners of the American dream with me. A dream awakening in the darkness. The content in this video is created with the aim of objectively analyzing and sharing social perspectives. All information, data, and images used are for reference and illustrative purposes only and are not intended to affirm, attribute, or attack any individual, organization, or business. Some details are presented as reconstructions or syntheses from various sources to serve the storytelling and contextual analysis. Viewers are encouraged to self-reflect, compare, and draw their own conclusions after watching the video.